the Early Start Denver model is also known as the ESDM. What we prioritise is maximising young children's learning opportunities in their everyday routines like toileting, meal times, dressing, outside play, in order to support their social communication skills, their play skills and their independence. There's three key parts of an ESDM therapist's role. The first part is to conduct an assessment of the child's skills. So we have a curriculum checklist that we use in the ESDM, which outlines skills across all areas of early childhood development. And we incorporate that information with information from the child's family, information from the child's teachers, any other therapists that are supporting the family, and we develop a comprehensive program that addresses all the areas of need for that child across their daily routines. The second part of an ESDM therapist's role is to implement the therapy. So we use ESDM teaching practices within the child's everyday routines, whether that's at home, at the community, at childcare, or in a clinic or group program, and we implement those skills as part of those routines and then fade our supports so that by the end of the 3-month period, the child is using that skill spontaneously, independently, and very naturally. The other part of implementing the ESDM program is around reviewing the data. So I mentioned about the ESDM goals that are developed from the assessment. We track the child's progress on those skills. So every time we do a mealtime routine, we can then write down how well the child was using the skill of pointing or asking for more apple. So we can track each week of those 12 weeks how well they're learning and adjust as needed. And I guess that's the third part of an ESDM therapist role, is reviewing the child's program each week and making those little tweaks that are needed to make sure that we're supporting the child's sustained progress and across settings. So there's a lot of collaboration with the child's family and the other places that the child spends time and is learning, so that we're all working on similar goals in a similar way so that the learning process is as easy as possible. So the ESDM works for children with autism by having a really clear plan with everybody in the child's life of what we're focusing on. We've got a shared understanding of what the important elements of their development are that we're focusing on for that 3-month period. So having a set of ESDM learning objectives, tracking the child's progress, is a really clear way that we can make sure that the learning opportunities that we're maximising in their everyday routines, like toileting and dressing and playing outside and playing with blocks, that we're really creating really clear and natural and meaningful learning opportunities for the child to use skills to express themselves, to learn from others, to be able to attend to others. And that's, I guess, the key vehicle for us is around social learning is the key driver for the child's development. So attending to others and learning from others, and then being able to contribute their ideas to the people that they're playing with as well. We incorporate elements from the science of ABA and as pivotal response training. So a key component of our intervention is being mindful of making sure the child's motivated to play with us and learn from us. So we incorporate their interests and their preferences and their play ideas in a really flexible, creative way. And there's no one right way of doing it. We're often individualising it based on each child because each child is really different. We're really balanced in the way that we play with children, that we're teaching them the fundamentals of a conversation when they're adults, but when they're between 12 and 48 months, that we share emotions, we share communications, we share eye contact, we share play materials and play ideas, and that it's very much a balanced interaction. So sometimes the child's leading the play and sometimes the adult leads the play. So we each get to practice leading and following so that we have a diverse, flexible range of skills that they can use. So ESDM is a really flexible, comprehensive intervention style. So we can deliver the ESDM in a range of settings. So one setting that you might receive ESDM is one-on-one, which is where one therapist works with the child individually. That could happen in the service provider's clinic room, that could happen in the child's home, or that could happen within a childcare setting as well. So it could be the ESDM therapist or a therapy assistant that they're working with teaches those goals within that setting. And thinking about what that would look like, a one-on-one therapy session in ESDM is flexible and varied. So we have an idea of the skills that we want to be teaching and activities that would work well for that child, but the order in which those activities happen and the timing of those activities is led by the child. What does that child's body need right now? Is now a good time to practice, gross motor goals outside, or is their body ready to sit down and do a puzzle and ask for more pieces? ESDM in a childcare setting is following along with the routines and the curriculum for that class and really maximising the learning opportunities within that. And being really mindful of how we're supporting that. We want to make sure that we're continuing to have really natural and meaningful learning opportunities and only providing as much support as is required, because then it's a lot easier for us to fade the support and then not be required anymore. And then the child could continue using those skills in those routines that they've been practicing, and we can nicely fade out. ESDM therapist, just like any other early intervention professional, has a collaborative approach to working with a child's therapy team. So we have open collaboration, open sharing of ideas, and for the ESDM we're particularly mindful about how different types of skills would be well suited to different types of settings or approaches. So an ESDM therapist would have conversations with parental consent with the speech pathologist, for example, if the child's receiving fortnightly one-to-one speech therapy sessions. The ESDM therapist would have regular contact with them when they're developing the goals. What are the skills that are well suited to the one-on-one context versus, for example, in the childcare or at the child's home? So it's really helpful for us to be mindful of what each other is doing in an early intervention therapy team and to work in a complementary way rather than necessarily having starkly different approaches to teaching or what we're teaching. So I think that open communication is an essential element of how ESDM therapists can work within a therapy team. ESDM therapists work really closely with the child's family. They're a central component of the team, and there are opportunities for ESDM therapists to collaborate with families throughout the ESDM cycle or ESDM term. So when we're developing an assessment and gauging what the child's skills are, what their strengths are, what are the areas that we need support in that would make everyday routines work more seamlessly and support their engagement in everyday routines, we collaborate with families to come up with those ideas. What would make dinner time easier? What's so hard about getting into the car? Talk me through that. So we certainly have a lot of discussions with families at the assessment in terms of their child's daily routines, what's easy, what's hard, what would we want the child to be doing instead, and then we teach that skill. Any teaching adjustments that we make, it's often really helpful for us to collaborate with families and say, I've been trying to teach this puzzle goal for the last 2 weeks and I've tried these different types of strategies, but it's not quite working. What do you think would be helpful for Johnny? Like, what would work for Susie? And we'll get some great ideas that come out of that open discussion about what can we do to make this work well. So not only the assessment, but also the implementation and reviewing the progress is a great opportunity. The other component for ESDM is because we are so flexible and work in a range of settings, there's lots of unique opportunities that we can create to support the child to learn an essential skill. One example that comes to mind is at the centre that I work, we have a car park out the front, and there are children who require support to get in and out of the car more independently, or to walk holding hands on the footpath. That's an essential safety community skill, which is really important that we can pop out in the car park and practice together. So we really take advantage of opportunities about whether it's getting in and out of the car, carrying your backpack, walking holding hands with mum or dad coming into the centre, waiting at reception if there's someone else getting ready to pop in, even flexibly walking down the hallway. For some children, they might have a set way of doing that, and we can't always accommodate that every day. So helping create everyday opportunities to support families with what is challenging for them, to reduce their need for support from us, and so that the child can be more independent.